Well, it may seem as if America is in the middle of another gilded age. The economy is roaring ahead. It's up. Unemployment has reached record lows. But author David Barton says, don't be fooled. We're at a precarious moment in our history.
David Barton is a constitutional expert and the founder of Wall Builders, a national pro-family organization. He says we must address certain issues, like racial division, a growing immigration crisis, and declining church attendance, if we are to survive as a nation.
Every single revival will affect public policy. It will change your laws. It will always do that.
As the co-author of This Precarious Moment, David highlights the causes for chaos in our country and offers urgent steps we can take to be a part of the solution today.
Well, David Barton's here with us. He's the author of this new book. It's called This Precarious Moment, 6 Urgent Steps That Will Save You and Your Family. David, what's precarious? What's happening? Good to see you.
We're kind of standing on the brink in 6 specific areas, and they're all areas that we've dealt with in history before. But this generation, we're trying to decide whether we're going to walk off the cliff or not. And so we have some decisions to make. These areas, no nation has ever come back if they've made the wrong decision. So we do have some decisions to make.
Those that failed to heed the lessons of history are doomed to live them again.
That's right.
What are some of these precarious steps?
Well, one of the first thing we point to is racial relations, where we are with the racial relations. And what we do is we say, these are things that can be solved individually. So what we do in the book is say, here are individual things that you as a person can do to make a difference in this area. So racial relations, immigration, where we are with our relationship with Israel, and although President Trump has made it so much better, we're at a point now where that last year we had 1,600 anti-Israel events on campuses. We have doubled hate crimes against Jewish people in the last year. Right now, millennials, 66% of millennials have never heard of Auschwitz. 22% don't know what the Holocaust is.
66 have never heard of Auschwitz?
Never heard of it.
Come on.
And so we're losing our historical memory on things. So we're deciding, you know, Jews aren't that great. And so what we're seeing with Airbnb and what they're doing with not wanting to rent to Jewish folks because of what's happening in Israel, that kind of anti-Semitism is up. But we can fix that individually. We point to millennials, where millennials are. Right now in college, 75% of college students want us to be a socialistic nation.
Come on, are you serious?
75%.
Do they know what socialism is?
That's the thing. They do not. Talking to George Barton, he recently did a poll where 41% of Americans want socialism, but he went and asked an additional 41 questions, and once they found out what it was, only 2% actually wanted it. So what happens is they don't know what it is, but they want it, and we have 53% of students in college right now who think that free speech should not be protected, and 19% of college students think that violence is an acceptable response to free speech you disagree with. So these are all precarious moments. So what do we do to change it? And that's really what we focus on.
Well, you mentioned immigration. What did the founding fathers say about immigration? You brought out Jefferson's thoughts and others. What did they think about it?
You know, it's interesting. They were huge pro-immigration guys in the sense that of the 39 guys who signed the Constitution, 7 of them were immigrants.
Yeah.
And the immigrant guys said, man, if we had voted when we first got to America, we would have made America like the countries we came from. They said, you need time here because this is such a different nation. And so they're the ones who set up the time parameters. One of them, Pierce Butler from South Carolina, said, look, I'm an immigrant. Nobody should be allowed to vote in America until you've been here 14 years. Well, they actually settled on 5 years, is what the Constitution says. So they did not allow immigrants to vote until you've been here 5 years. You learn the system. You know what's happening. We've got in California right now registering illegals to vote. Well, that'll make America just like the country they came from. Founding fathers were huge pro-immigration, but they wanted assimilation and they wanted education to go with it.
I've read that about the illegal immigrants are about, what is it, 4 million that are on welfare?
It's higher than that. It's about 63% now. They get some form of government assistance.
They're illegal immigrants.
And the founding fathers were very adamant that if you come to America and go on public assistance within 5 years, you'll be deported. You have to support yourself when you get here.
Are you serious?
That was founding father policy.
you've been here and you don't support yourself, you got to be deported?
You got to be able to support yourself for 5 years, and you can't come unless a religious society gives a recommendation of your character. So you had to have good moral character. The extreme vetting is what the Founding Fathers got started back in the beginning.
Why is everybody so, who wants this open borders thing? Is the idea you got an uninformed electorate that they'll be malleable and therefore they'll vote Democratic? Is that the idea?
Well, there's such a progressive thinking, and this is what we see in schools with the kids wanting socialism. That progressive thinking says we're globalist, we're all one, you shouldn't have any borders anywhere in the world. And so we see that with Europe, with Poland pushing back now, saying, no, we're not doing the immigration thing the EU's doing, and the Czech Republic and Hungary and others. Those younger European nations are going in the direction that America went, but here in America, they're trying to push us in the direction of that globalism. But that's a progressive thinking. I mean, that's just what we faced for years.
You talk about America being a postmodern. What do you think, and why do you think so?
Well, we don't know our history anymore. I mean, quite frankly, we just do not teach history. We see right now that we have 92% of immigrants who come to America can pass the history test in America. Only 7% of high school seniors can pass the immigration test. Our kids who have been 12 years in school don't know anything about this country. The immigrants coming in know much more than we do.
Is this a plot from the teachers' union somehow to dumb down our citizens? I mean, the kids really can't read and write. I mean, they get through...
Yeah, we have 19%, in any given year right now, 19% of kids graduate from school 100% illiterate. 19%, 1 out of 5 kids.
Wait a minute, graduate from public school, 19% are illiterate?
Cannot read or write at all, and that's after we spend $164,000 for them to get an education. 19% are illiterate. So we have a very messed up education system. It does not do well. We no longer do the testing the way we used to. We used to have national tests where we said, oh, Texas is 45th and Mississippi's 32nd. Now every state does its own test, so you can't compare the states to see where education is. Everybody feels good about themselves because they've got their own test.
Well, what do you think is going on? I mean, has there been a deliberate attempt? I mean, you know, this new way of reading, you know, this is a monkey. You learn to, because he's got a tail. They don't do phonics, they don't learn math, they don't learn these practical skills.
They don't learn these skills anymore, and even in history, which is something we both love and believe that you can learn from, whatever generation you're in, you can learn from the past. Right now, of the top 76 universities in America, if you go there as a history major, in 64 of those 76 universities, you will not take a single course on American history. You get everybody else's history, you will get no American history, and that's as a history major. So we're moving, University of Wisconsin is dropping history as a major at all. You can't even take the history major if you want it. So we're determined to move away from who we've been. We don't want anybody to know what we've done or what our government is. The average length of a constitution in the history of the world is 17 years. Newsflash, we've had ours 231 years. That's good. But we don't even tell kids that we're different from other nations. We'll say we're just like everybody else. No, America's special. But it won't stay special if we do what every other nation's done. And we just can't do that. And that's really why we wrote the book.
Was this a communist? I mean, who's behind all this? I mean, somebody's got to be behind it.
Pat, it's a worldview thing. Because, quite frankly, if you believe in evolution, then you've got to believe that man is always moving forward. I mean, the Founding Fathers used horses. We can't learn from them. We've got... And so the first thing you drop in evolution is history, because we've evolved past where they were. We can't learn from history. We won't make the mistakes they did. So you move history, and if you're always evolving, then you believe that man is inherently good, which means you don't need restraints on government. Big government is what you need because man's good and they'll do the right thing for you. And so it's a worldview issue that you get into. And when you have that non-biblical worldview or a progressive secular worldview, you get rid of history, you have big government, you have social programs because the government's going to take care of you because we're inherently good. And that's just not what the Bible teaches, and that's not what history teaches.
Well, that sounds like the French Revolution. It's Rousseau.
It is. It is. But that's you're talking history, Pat. You can't talk history. Nobody studies history anymore.
Well, they chopped a bunch of people's heads off because of that. Remember the guillotine?
40,000 in a short period of time they used the guillotine on.
That's right. David, I hope people get this book. It's available wherever. this precarious moment? Where do they sell this?
Any major book distributor will have it online, worldbuilders.com, Amazon, any of them will have it.
All right. David Barton is a brilliant scholar. I just appreciate his view and what he's got to say. He's a fountain of learning, and I think this book I commend to all of you. David, thank you so much.
Thanks, Pat.
God bless you.
Bless you, bro.
All right.